Okay guys, so got that piece welded in. You can see it's not, I've been doing this intermittently with work and other stuff. So I put some paint on it to just protect it, make sure it didn't rust while it sat here for a little bit. But you can see it's not my normal good job. It kind of came out a little wavy. So I need to go back and smooth that out. It's not nearly as good as I wanted it, but there's a patch in here that actually turned out pretty well. The rest of the seams actually look pretty good. Can't even see that one over there. That looks really good. Haven't done anything on the bottom yet, so still have to do that, but I need to clean this up and that up because I'm just not liking it. But it was on those, especially on that downturn, you tend to get the more you grind, the more you weld, the more you grind, the more you weld, it creates thin spots. And so I finally got it all patched up, but now that I'm seeing it in paint, it looks horrible. So I'll have to do something about that. But the other thing I've been working on is welding up that bracket, because it looked like this one. I had to drill all the spot welds out. This is the one from the replacement panel that I'm not going to use. I'm going to use the original. But you see I've kind of welded it up, and then I'll go back and re-drill it. I still have to put one notch back in it, and then I'll put it back in place. One of the problems though is my fancy little, I had that the system devised right where I had this, and I have one at the back. Well, in grinding and welding, you know, the dust and everything got in the tape and it just came right off. So now I kind of hosed myself with where it was. I'm going to try and piece it back together, but you see that black mark? I made a corresponding black mark somewhere on there to where basically they would create a crosshair right in the center of that circle. So I'm gonna have to go back and I kind of hosed myself. One of the many mistakes I've made. I still have that one over there which I haven't touched, so I can take measurements and get that one all aligned. Get this one over here aligned similar to that one. I don't think it's critical. I've got the back seats. I can get the back seats out and check fit those as well. They've already been recovered and everything. But that's one of the problems, is I have to put the backrest back in before I can put these back in order for it to kind of sit right. So it's just a little bit of a process because my little system didn't work. All right, well, that's where we are. We'll bring you back. Okay guys, so you remember I had lost the recipe on where to put that bracket. Luckily I still had that one over there underneath that back seat. So what you can see is I've got the back seat, back cushion in, the center console in the back, and then the lower cushions in to check fit all this stuff. But what I ended up doing, you know, I lost the recipe because my strings, they came undone, the tape came undone, the marks are gone. Not a good process in the first place. So what I did was I measured the other bracket, and what I got was in the center where that the upper back seat is supposed to bolt in. It's covered up with a piece of tape. There's a hole right there for a big washer and a screw. I measured out here to, there's a hole cut in the center of that bracket. Actually here, let me go over to the other side and just show you. I'm not saying this is, I mean, these measurements don't have to be, you know, down to the 16th. These have to be down to probably a quarter or a half, if that, because there's other stuff that will hold it in place. But so from the back there, you can see, I'll focus, there it is. That's where that bottom gets bolted in place. It comes straight out to the center of that circle, it's right at 11.5 inches. And then if you come up to this bulkhead here where these two pieces of sheet metal come together and measure out to this center line, it's exactly 12 inches. Those numbers, you know, being an engineer, those numbers just are kind of nice and round. So I feel pretty comfortable with the fact that that's where that bracket should be. So put this in here and you push it. Sorry, you push it backwards and then come forward. You see you get it's a little movement because the carpet, the side panels and all that stuff is not in here. But that's the way it's supposed to fit. So got 11.5 inches from the back and 12 from the side are the numbers that I used to that center point. And there's a screw and a washer in there, obviously right now. So then I measured it, drilled a couple holes to hold that thing in place. So you can see my measurements there, 12 to the center line, 11.5. And then this is this side. Put this in like that. Slide it backwards. Clicks in place. And I apologize, man. These Lombardi seats pick up lint like nobody's business. So yeah, that's where it goes, and you can see it fits really well. So that's where I'm going to weld it in place after I do some other finishing grinding on that. But you can see these are, I don't know that I've ever shown these seats on the channel. I did these a long time ago, and I did them myself. So I bought the foam, I bought the covers from Legendary Interiors, bought Hoggering pliers, and put it all together myself. And it really, shout out to Legendary Interiors. These were expensive, very expensive. I want to say I paid $1,500 to $2,000 for the set, but the material is spot on. The original, I have the originals, and it's very, I mean, it's almost identical, and they fit really well. If you've seen my channel at all, I've got a link to a thread that I started in the past where I recovered these, and I actually bought a set of the covers from PUI. I don't know, this was several years ago when I started it. I don't know if they're still making them, but I would not recommend them. They were crap. They were kind of, you put them out in the sun and it almost turned purple, and the texture was not right. They were crap, and they were about $1,000 for the set. So if you're gonna do these, spend the extra money and get the Legendary ones. I also bought the set, the door panels from Legendary. These are the old ones, but you see it's got the Lombardi cloth in the insert as well. And again, when I bought the ones from PUI, that was purple, and the texture wasn't right. So it just looked horrible, looked really bad. So I sent all that stuff back and bought all the stuff from Legendary, and yeah, it looks phenomenal. I haven't gotten, these are the originals. They were falling apart anyway. So I've got all that stuff tucked up there, all parts and parts. So, but it's actually very neat. I'm also doing some other check fitting of this center console, because what I'm going to end up doing is welding up a bunch of these holes and re-drilling them so that all this stuff is going to fit. You can see these, where'd they go? There, those holes. I'll weld all those up and then re-drill new holes so it won't, nothing will rattle and all that stuff. So, but it's very exciting. We actually have a complete non-rusty floor in the Trans Am. It's very exciting to see the interior start to come together again. All right, we'll bring you back. All right, so got that welded in place, and then I painted this whole back end and painted the holes that I patched up earlier, welded those up, and then they were just bare metal, so I painted those just to make sure they get protected. But I haven't even added any filler to this back panel. I mean, it turned out really nice. So the line is somewhere in there, comes along the back and then over there. what you're seeing there is kind of where the spot welds were, very similar to that back there. You can see it a little bit right on this front edge, right along there. But I'm actually very, very proud with how it turned out. I'm getting better at welding. And so that's all good. That one's done, and the only other thing that I had to do is this hole over here. I'll insert a picture of what it looked like just before I fixed it. It had gotten oblonged. I don't know how. It was that way when I took the body plug out, so I just used the metal hammers and kind of massaged it back into place, got it smooth so that when I put the body plugs back in, I can put the goop on it and everything will be smooth from the top and the bottom. So yeah, kind of happy with that turned out as well. You can see it's actually looks like a hole again, similar to that one. And again, so what that marks is the end of the interior floor pans. And these are done. It's been a long time coming, but it's all done. So the next job is working on those holes in there. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna cut that out and fix that. So yeah. So then at that point, still some work to do on the bottom. I gotta do a little bit of grinding and painting, cleaning. Still trying to get all that undercoating off. All right, I'll be back later.